This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist, and I'd like to welcome you to an exciting new series I have developed, which are audio white papers for the compliance professional. In this audio white paper series, I'm going to go through the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program. At the conclusion, you will have a much better understanding of what you can do to improve your compliance program under the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program, supplemented by the Evaluation of Corporate Compliance Programs document released in February 2017 and the new FCPA Corporate Enforcement Policy. I provided this in audio format so that it can be easily accessed and listened to, and I hope you will enjoy it. This series is based upon my new book, The Complete Compliance Handbook, which will be published in April 2017 by Compliance Week. You can check out more information on it and pre-order it on my website, www.FCPA Compliance Report. The audio white paper for today is Hallmark 1 of the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program. I hope you will enjoy it. Hallmark number 1, top management down through the organization and the board of directors. A, leadership's conduct at the top. Under the Evaluation of Corporate Compliance Programs, prong 2, it states, senior and middle management, conduct at the top. How have senior leaders, through their words and actions, encouraged or discouraged the type of misconduct in question? What concrete actions have they taken to demonstrate leadership in the company's compliance and remediation efforts? How does the company monitor its senior leadership's behavior? How has senior leadership modeled proper behavior to subordinates? This requirement is simply more than the ubiquitous tone at the top, as it focuses on the conduct of senior management. The Justice Department wants to see a company's senior leadership actually doing compliance. The DOJ asks if the company leadership, through their words and deeds and concrete actions, have brought the right message of doing business ethically and in compliance to a company. How does senior management model its behavior on a company's values? And finally, how is such conduct monitored in an organization? How can senior management operationalize compliance going forward? One of the best places to start is an article in the Harvard Business Review by Lynn Payne entitled Managing for Organizational Integrity. 5 factors derived from that article can be used as guideposts to not only set the right tone from senior management on doing business ethically and in compliance, but also lay the groundwork for senior management to model appropriate behavior, then have it monitored by the company going forward. Number 1, the guiding values of a company must make sense and must be clearly communicated by senior management in a variety of settings to the entire workforce. Number 2, the company's leader must be personally committed and willing to take action on the values. This means that management must not simply overlook the transgressions of top producers. Number 3, a company's systems and structures must support its guiding principles, and those internal systems and structures cannot be overridden by senior management without both justification and board approval. Number 4, a company's values must be integrated into normal channels of management decision-making and reflected in a company's critical decisions. Sometime a company must turn down business if there are too many red flags present, or by engaging in such behavior, the company's value and ethics will be violated. 5, managers must be empowered to make ethically sound decisions on a day-to-day basis. This means that senior management must fully support and back up such decisions. David Lawler, in his book Frequently Asked Questions in Anti-Bribery and Anti-Corruption, boiled it down as follows. Whatever the size, structure, or market of a commercial organization, a top-level management's commitment to bribery prevention is likely to include communication of the organization's anti-bribery stance and appropriate degree of involvement in developing bribery prevention procedures. Lawyer went on to provide a short list of points that he suggests senior management engage in to communicate the type of tone to follow in an anti-corruption regime. I had a CEO of a client who, after I described his role in operationalizing his company's compliance program, observed the following. You want me to be the ambassador for compliance. I immediately averred in the affirmative. The following is a list of things that a CEO can do as an ambassador of compliance to fully model the conduct that senior management must show. Reject do as I say, not do as I do mentality. Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk of compliance. Oversee creation of a written statement of zero tolerance towards bribery and corruption. Appoint and fully resource with money and headcount a chief compliance officer. Oversee the development of a code of conduct and written compliance program implementing it. Ensure there are compliance metrics to all key business reports. Provide leadership to middle management to facilitate filtering of the zero tolerance message down throughout the organization. Not only have a whistleblower reporting or speak up culture, but channel and celebrate it. Keep talking about doing the right thing. Make sure that you have seen by your senior managers providing your chief compliance officer with direct access to yourself and to the board of directors. Coming at it from a different perspective, author Martin Begelman provides some concrete examples in his book entitled Building a World-Class Compliance Program, Best Practices and Strategies for Success. Begelman begins the chapter discussed in this area with the statement, "The road to compliance starts at the top. There is probably no dispute that a company takes on the tone of its top management. Inspired by a list from Joe Murphy of actions that a CEO can demonstrate to set the requisite tone from the captain's chair of any business, you can do some of the following. Number one, keep a code of conduct on your desk. Have a dog-eared copy of your company's code of conduct on your desk and be seen using it. 2, give your CCO real authority. Make sure your compliance department has authority, influence, and budget within the company. Have your chief compliance officer report directly to the board of directors. 3, hold them accountable. At senior executive meetings, have each participant report on what they have done to further compliance function in their business unit. 4, reward and punish. Have both sanctions for violations of company policies and incentives for doing business in a compliant manner. 5, walk the walk. Turn down an expensive dinner or trip offered by a vendor. Pass on a gift that you may have received. Turn down a transaction based on ethical consideration. 6, be a compliance student. Be seen at intra-company compliance training events. Take a 1 or 2 day course or attend a compliance conference outside your organization. 7, recognize compliance at your company. You should recognize outstanding compliance efforts with company-wide announcements and awards. 8, enshrine compliance at the board. Recruit a nationally known compliance expert to sit on your company's board and chair the compliance committee. 8, independent review. Obtain an independent outside review of your company's compliance program and report the results to the board's compliance committee. 10, push compliance into your supply chain. Mandate that all your vendors in your supply chain embrace compliance and ethics as a business model. If not, pass on doing business with them. 11, create an executive network for compliance. Talk to other CEOs and senior executives in your industry on how to improve your company's compliance efforts. Another area a CCO can forcefully engage in with an entire company is through a powerful video message about doing business the right way and in compliance. A great example was a CenterPoint Energy video put out in 2015 after the Volkswagen emission testing scandal became public. The video featured Scott Prochaka, CenterPoint Energy President and Chief Executive Officer. He used the Volkswagen scandal to proactively address culture and values at the company and used the entire scenario as an opportunity to promote integrity in the workplace. But more than simply a one-time video, the company followed up with an additional resource entitled Manager's Toolkit. What does integrity mean to you? Which managers used to facilitate discussions and ongoing communications with employees around the company's ethics and compliance programs. Finally, as noted by Amy Lilly, then Director of Corporate Ethics and Compliance at CenterPoint, the cost of the video was very reasonable as it was produced internally. B, moving compliance tone down through an organization. The evaluation of corporate compliance programs makes clear that a company must have more than simply good tone at the top. It must move down through an organization from senior management down to middle management into its lower ranks. This means that one of the tasks is to get middle management to respect the stated ethics and values of a company, because if they do, this will be communicated down through an organization. Mike Volkov, in an article entitled Mood in the Middle versus Tone at the Top, said that even when a company does all the right things at the senior management level, the real issue is whether or not culture has embedded itself in the middle and lower management. A company's culture is reflected in the values and beliefs that exist throughout the company. To fully operationalize your compliance program, you must find a way to articulate it, then drive the message of ethical values and doing business in compliance with such an anti-corruption laws as the FCPA from the top down throughout your organization. What should be the tone in the middle? What should be a middle manager's role in the company's compliance program? This role is critical because the majority of company employees work most directly with middle rather than top management, and consequently, they will take their cues from how middle management will respond to a situation. Perhaps most importantly, middle management must listen to the concerns of employees. If middle management cannot affect a direct change, it is important that employees have an outlet to express their concerns. Your organization should train middle managers to enhance listening skills in the overall context of providing training for their management's toolkits. This can be particularly true if there is a compliance violation or other incident which requires some form of employee discipline. Most employees think that it is important that there be organizational justice so that people will believe they are being treated fairly. For if there is organizational justice, it engenders perceived procedural fairness, which makes it more likely that an employee will be willing to accept a decision that they may not like or disagree with the end result. Even with great tone at the top and in the middle, you cannot stop. One of the greatest challenges of a compliance practitioner is how to affect tone at the bottom. One of the things that you can do is assemble a compliance focus group to find out how business is done in the field and if it differs from what your company expects from an ethical and compliance perspective. Begin by assembling a group of employees who are familiar with the challenges of doing business in a compliant manner in certain geographic regions to discuss the challenges of doing business ethically and in compliance. Ask them questions about their understanding of your compliance regime. Then categorize the answers into theory and practice of compliance in your company. From this, then test what is real in theory and real in practice. You can check and see which employees are promoted more regularly, those who do business ethically and in compliance, or those who simply meet their sales quotas every quarter. After you have internally tested, reassemble the original group and have them consider the beliefs that are articulated by them in the context of how your compliance model tested. Lead a discussion that attempts to identify in practice and theory, and then you can move from theory to practice to operationalizing compliance. And finally, in the feedback step, test how to more fully operationalize your compliance regime. These tests can be accomplished in the regular course of business through a special project with a special team and separate budget. By engaging employees at this level, you can not only find out what employees think about the company's compliance program, but use their collective experience to help design a better and more effective compliance program. Employees want to do business in an ethical manner. Give them the chance to do so, as opposed to cheating. This will win hearts and minds of your employees almost all the time. By using the protocol suggested here, you can not only find out the effect of your company's compliance program on employees at the bottom, but you can affect them as well. Employees often look to their direct supervisor to determine what is the tone of an organization is and will be going forward. Many employees of a multinational, large organization may never have direct contact with the CEO or even senior management. By moving the values of compliance through an organization into the middle, you will be in a much better place to position inculcation of these values and operationalizing them throughout your organization. C, the board and operationalizing compliance. What is the role of a company's board of directors? It was laid out in the evaluation of corporate compliance programs in an inquiry called Oversight with 3 basic questions. 1. What compliance expertise has been available on the board of directors? 2. Have the board of directors and or external auditors held executive or private sessions with the compliance function? And 3, what types of information have the board of directors and senior management examined in their oversight in the area of which the misconduct occurred? In the new FCPA corporate enforcement policy, it supplements the above with the following requirement for a board of directors in a best practices compliance program, asking, what is the availability of compliance expertise to the board? I believe this is more than simply a reporting requirement or that the CCO have a direct line to the board. I believe this is a separate requirement for the compliance expertise to the board. I've long argued that there should be a compliance professional on a board of directors. You can name any of the most recent scandals: Wells Fargo, Uber Technologies, Volkswagen, Equifax, and there's no compliance expertise on the board. Clearly, the better practice is for companies to have a seasoned compliance professional on the board. I would add that the Department of Justice may soon expect there be a compliance committee separate and apart from the audit committee. At the general level, these inquiries require several structural components for a board around compliance. They include defining the board's role so there is a mutual understanding between the board, CEO, and senior management of the board's responsibilities around compliance. A board must work to foster culture of compliance risk management so that all stakeholders should understand the compliance risks involved and manage such risk accordingly. The board must incorporate compliance risk management directly into a strategy by overseeing the design and implementation of compliance risk evaluation and analysis. The board should help define the company's appetite for compliance risk so that all stakeholders need to understand the company's appetite or lack thereof for compliance risk. The board must oversee the execution of the compliance risk management process by maintaining an approach that is continually monitored and has continuing accountability. Finally, the board must demand benchmarking through compliance programs which allow for evaluation, modifying the compliance risk management process for compliance as more information becomes available or facts or assumptions change. All of these factors can be easily adapted to the compliance risk management oversight of a board. Initially, it is important that the board receive direct access to such information on the company's policies and procedures. The board must have quarterly reports from a company's chief compliance officer to either the audit committee or the compliance committee. Your board should create a compliance committee, as the audit committee may be more appropriately deal with financial audit issues and financial reporting issues. A compliance committee can devote itself exclusively to non-financial compliance, such as anti-corruption compliance. The board's oversight role should be to receive such further regular reports on the structure of the company's compliance programs, its actions, and self-evaluations. From this information, the board can give oversight to any modification to managing risk that should be implemented. In addition to the requirement that a board of directors have a compliance committee, a board should also have a compliance subject matter expert as a member. Mike Volkov looked at it from the practical and business perspective, stating, "I've witnessed firsthand that companies that have a board member with compliance expertise usually have a more aggressive and effective compliance program. In this situation, the compliance officer has to answer to the board for the company's compliance program while receiving the resources and support to accomplish these compliance tasks." Roy Snell considered it through the prism of the compliance profession and noted the government is looking for not generic compliance expertise. They are looking for compliance program management expertise. There are some specific areas of inquiry by a board of directors around compliance. I've adapted 20 questions which reflect the oversight role of a board of directors. These questions which the board should ask of both senior management and the board itself. The questions are not intended to be an exact checklist, but rather a way to provide insight and stimulate discussion on the topic of compliance. The questions provide the directors with a basis for critically assessing the answers they get and digging deeper as necessary. The comments summarize the most current thinking on these issues and the practices of leading organizations. Although the questions apply to most medium to large organizations, the answers could vary according to the size, complexity, and the sophistication of the compliance regime of each organization. So, part one, understanding the role and value of a board compliance committee. The following questions. Number one, what are the board's compliance committee's responsibilities and what value does it bring to the board? Number two, how can the board compliance committee assist the board to enhance its relationship with management? And number three, what is the role of the board compliance committee? Part two, building an effective board compliance committee. What skill set does a board compliance committee require? Number five, who should sit on the board compliance committee? And number six, who should chair the board compliance committee? Part three, questions directed to the board of directors. What is the board of directors compliance committee role in building an effective compliance program within the company? Number eight, how can a board compliance committee assess potential members and senior leaders of a company's compliance program? Number nine, how long should directors serve on the board compliance committee? And number 10, how can the board compliance committee assist in the board succession issues? Part four, enhancing the board's compliance effectiveness. Number 11, how can a board compliance committee assist in the director development. 12. How can a board compliance committee help the board chairperson sharpen the board's overall performance focus? 13. What is the board's compliance committee's role in board evaluation and feedback? 14. What should the board compliance committee do if a director is not performing or not interacting effectively with other directors? 15. Should the board compliance committee have a role in chair succession? 16. How can a board compliance committee help the board keep its mandates, policies, and practices up to date? Part 5. Merger roles of compliance committees. Number 17. How can a board compliance committee enhance the board's relationship with institutional shareholders and other stakeholders? 18. What is the board compliance committee's role in CCO succession? 19. How can a board compliance committee play in preparing for a crisis such as the discovery of a significant compliance violation? And 20. How can the board compliance committee help in the board in deciding chief compliance officer pay, bonus, and resources made available to the corporate compliance function? This concludes my audio white paper of Hallmark 1 of the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program. I hope you will listen in for Hallmark 2. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this audio white paper on Hallmark number 1 of the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program. If you would like additional information, I hope you will check out my new book, The Complete Compliance Handbook. It is available for pre-order now on my website, www.fcpacompliancereport.com. As always, this is Tom Fox, the Compliance Evangelist. You can email me if you have any questions at tfox@tfoxlaw.com.